Hey everybody, Dr. Wenzel. This is video 4 of a 4-part series that's all about the truth about cholesterol. And in this video, we're going to be bringing it all home. We're going to be tying everything together that we've been talking about in the previous 3 videos to give you the actual strategies that you need to be taking and the framework with which you need to be thinking about cholesterol as it pertains to your risk for cardiovascular disease. There are really 7 steps that I want you by the end of this video to have in your mind and to reference back here, because although the science and our understanding of the science may continue to change, these steps will never change. And this is the framework that I use with my private clients. At a high level, we have things that are modifiable risk factors and non-modifiable risk factors. And at the end of the day, the only reason cholesterol is important is because we're concerned about, does it put us at risk for something else that's more scary? And when we risk stratify, we have to look at the things that we can control and the things that we can't control. And thankfully, in large part, the cholesterol numbers are things that we can control, but there's so much overwhelm on what to actually do. So step number 1 has got nothing to do with cholesterol control in your diet. It has to do with blood sugar control. The holy grail of health is a normalized blood sugar. When your body has a normalized blood sugar, you are essentially telling all of your biochemistry that all is well, all of our needs are met, we don't need to be storing for the famine, all is well. And anytime our blood sugars get elevated, we are telling our body to store for the famine. And it is these states of abundance and these states of overfed states that get us into all kinds of trouble. So the most important thing you could ever do for your health, well-being, longevity, and vitality is to get a normalized blood sugar. Number 2, you got to know your numbers. You have to know your numbers, and you have to know the numbers that matter. And we've gone at great lengths of describing and explaining the numbers that matter. As it pertains to cholesterol, the most important cholesterol number that you need to know is your ApoB or your LDL particle number. These two are essentially interchangeable, could be used interchangeably, but you've got to know them, and you're likely not getting these levels. Second most important number that you need is a ratio between your triglycerides and your HDL. This is very important because when it gets over 4, we've got something called metabolic syndrome. And as we've described in previous videos, this is an accelerator of discordance, which basically means that your LDL number on your basic lipid panel is not predictive. It is very, very inaccurate and unreliable. You got to know your numbers. Number 3. You have to aggressively treat modifiable risk factors. That's these guys. In other words, first of all, if you're smoking, you got to stop. It's the number 1 cause of preventable death on the planet. I'm just going to assume that you either don't smoke or you're about to quit smoking. But if you've got an elevated LDL particle number, you've got to do all that you can to reduce that number. That should be started with diet. Anything that stimulates ApoB production, we have some pretty good indicators early on. We don't have any long-term studies, but a lot of the short-term studies are very promising that carb restriction, in order to normalize blood sugar and normalize your insulin states, getting insulin out of the way, reverses ApoB production in levels. And when levels are high, ApoBs are high. So diet seems to be a critical stimulus of LDL particle numbers. Your triglyceride and HDL ratio, again, as this gets above 4, we're talking about metabolic syndrome, which really at the root of metabolic syndrome is insulin resistance. Insulin resistance has got to be strangled. And that might be a low-carb diet, it might be fasting, it might be weaving in a low-carb diet into fasting. It is likely going to include some strength training. We need lean muscles. Lean muscles are sugar consumers, and they consume up all the free energy to help us stabilize our blood sugar, which is the holy grail. It might require some pharmacology. There are first-line treatment for insulin resistance, drugs like metformin. There's some really promising new drugs that are helping folks that even despite metformin are not getting the type of glucose control that they would like, addressing the underlying insulin resistance. And we've got to eliminate all the excess visceral fat off of our body. We have to. These are modifiable. You should never stop pursuing optimization in this category. Step number 4 is to manage the non-modifiable. There may be nothing you can do about how old you are, or whether you're a male or a female, or your family history. There is some question that potentially Lp(a), which we've discussed in previous videos as a marker for atherogenesis, might be genetic and might not be modifiable. There's a lot of data and science that still needs to unfold with that particular marker. We may be moving it over there, I don't know. But manage the things that you can't actually modify, which leads us to, well, how do you manage it? Step number 5, you got to align yourself with the right physician. You have to have the same goals, values, and interest with the person who you're assigning stewardship of your greatest asset, which is your health. You've got to be aligned with that person. Step number 6, always be learning. This is fluid. The science isn't fluid. Our understanding of the science is fluid. The whole reason this video series exists is because of my deep dive into this topic and the conviction and the overwhelming amount of clarity and breakthrough that I've gotten over the past couple of months with this topic. Some of my opinions have changed as far as the tactics, and that's why I wanted to share this with you. But never stop learning, never stop learning. And leads me to my last step, which is number 7, never stop hunting. I have explained to many of my patients that I hunt. I'm always hunting, but I'm not just hunting for the sake of hunting. I'm hunting for things that matter. I want to major in major things. And there is nothing more significant. If your goal as a human is to not die and you want to live a long time and feel really great, you probably need to have cardiovascular disease high on the list, if not number 1, is something to avoid. Listen, I really hope these videos, this series has benefited you. I hope that you are able to take this information and apply it into your own life so that you can feel very good and you can feel powerful about the decisions that you're making. And until we meet again, take care.